Oh, I won't back down. Oh, I can't back down. You could stand me up at the gates of hell, or maybe the Degrassi black hole. I know I have many weird opinions, but I know it's right to tell you why I can think of 10 things that I can't let go, and I won't back down. I've done a lot of Degrassi videos on this individual, and it isn't Emma, although a analytics video says when I did my unpopular opinions, Emma was number one in this category and Maya was number two. So the guy I'm doing this video on actually tied for third with 10 unpopular opinions when he was the main character. And if you know my Degrassiisms and all that stuff in my work over the past 4 years, you know that I spend a lot of time talking about this guy and reasoning why he should have less hate to do with the Rick Murray situation. He's not blameless. It's just that there's less hate. Because of the fact that it wasn't just him that failed the students, it was the school board system that failed the students. But this character had one of the biggest downfalls in Degrassi and basically was just written off the show. Although the actor wanted to leave the show in a sense because he was leaving Canada for California. Yay. Still, the way he was portrayed and the way that he left was just has a sour taste in my mouth. And if you know my history of talking about this character and my hatred has dwindled in 4 years on this guy, you can understand. But the simple fact is that he failed the students, but the system failed the students as well. And that he was just a minor bit player in how things were moving along. It's the storyline that I have been basically been spending my 4 years of doing Degrassi videos on the Rick Murray situation and how villainy happens. Like Rick is still the biggest villain of his own storyline because he was his own worst enemy. I mean, dude brings a gun to the school wanting revenge and all that. You can't give this guy sympathy at all. You just can't. I know the villainy also lies with Jay and Spinner, and especially Jay with the Rick situation. They refused to let it go. I mean, Spinner and Paige had reason to hate on Rick because of what happened in season 3. Jay had no involvement whatsoever. He just was there for the ride and maybe get popular, which he kind of did, and didn't at the same time. But if you look at it after those three, who's the biggest villain after Rick, after Jay, and after Spinner? Some say Alex. Some say the students. Some people might even say Emma or Jimmy. But no. To me, the number 4 person is Raditch. The first ever principal of Degrassi in the Next Gen era. He was the guy that could have stopped everything if he had just listened to things. But in this video, I go through a rehash and say, well, give you some context. So when I give you context, I'm going to be saying it from 2 different parts. So what you'll see, unlike the other 7 videos I've done in this series, is that I'm going to break it down even further. I'm breaking this down. I'm breaking the whole Emma Clee girlfriend phase and the whole Time Stand Still phase into smaller parts, in a sense, within the video. So enjoy. And the next time we'll talk about Raditch in a way that, prior to Next Gen. So, title card coming up. So, you want to know more about Daniel Raditch and how he was part of the Degrassi OG era. So, trying to explain myself without going too much into detail, Raditch was introduced in the first episode as the English teacher who was caring about his students. He would have motivational quotes up on the board, and he would be a good teacher and all that. He did have a few run-ins with students, including Joey, but his first major run-in was with Yick, who seemed to not try his hardest and all that, and seemed to always get under Raditch's nose, and Raditch would call him Yick the disorganized. An episode happens when Yick tests Raditch and seeing if Raditch had any grudges against him. Raditch kind of catches on. They both go after each other. And after reading a paper Arthur did on the situation about students, being good at sports but not being good at academically and vice versa, Raditch realizes what he has done. And he realizes it and talks to Yick and says that we both need to try better. How about a clean slate? And Yick agrees. So Raditch becomes less of a evil person. Now Raditch, I know being a dick towards Yick was bad, but it was with good intentions though. He wanted Yick to do better. And it worked in a sense. Yick started being better. But of course, Raditch's biggest thing was with Joey. Joey basically had it out for Raditch because Raditch told Joey he should repeat grade 8 and all that. He could pass, but he figures that Joey would do better the next year. So, of course, they butt heads. Joey thinks that Raditch is a bad person, but Raditch is just doing it with good intentions. Raditch then is heard over the loudspeaker when Degrassi High starts, and Joey's like, that can't be Raditch. And then when Joey gets initiated, Raditch stops it and then says, I'm your new vice principal, and makes some kind of crack at Joey. Yeah, Joey had a reason to hate on Raditch and all that, but Raditch did a peace bond. And it all worked out in the end. So, it was good. But the one thing about Raditch was that they made him human. That one episode when Stephanie McKay gets booted from her presidency of the school because of her playing favorites. Raditch is running around like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to find a certain exam and all that. So that's funny. They try to humanize him. And the fact of the matter is that Raditch, if you look at him, looked hot. Of course, I don't find him hot, but I'm sure a lot of the female fans probably found him hot back in the late 80s, early 90s. He had a good style in him. And all that. Yeah, he kept his style with his drip, as the kids are saying nowadays. But the simple fact is that Raditch was portrayed as being a nice villain, if you will. But he did his job. But Raditch in Degrassi High, his most poignant moment was in the episode when Chloe offs himself. Raditch as vice principal, and that's a common misconception that Raditch was principal of Degrassi High. He wasn't. He was the vice principal. He talks to a group of students, including a couple of Dwayne's underlings and Joanne and Trish, the one with the mohawk, and talks about how we get overwhelmed sometimes, but we don't kill ourselves because once we do, everything's over. And he's poignant and he's right to the point. And he tells Joanne, there's not much you could have done about it for someone who didn't want help. And yeah, Raditch has the last word in Degrassi High, literally. When they did the prom episode, Trish, the one with the mohawk, says, Mr. Raditch, would you like to dance? And he says, sure. And that's it. Raditch looked pretty cool and all that. They made him humanized. So that's him before Next Gen. So what would he be like in Next Gen? Let's see. So it's Degrassi Next Gen. It's 2001. CTV took over from CBC the rights in Canada. And the simple fact is that Raditch is now the principal of Degrassi Community School. The question on everyone's lips will be, what would Raditch be like as a principal? Would he be a fair principal or would he be judgmental? Well, the first season, he didn't seem to be that bad. He didn't really appear much. The only major point of season 1 was when Spitter gets told by Jimmy to give up his ADHD pill, his Ritalin, so that Jimmy can make the basketball team and make everyone proud. Jimmy was going full tilt for basketball. Spitter did that, and then inadvertently, Spitter decides to moon the school at a pep rally, well, at halftime of the basketball game. Raj is not too pleased and tells Spinner that you need to take all your medications. And why did you not take this pill? What happened to it? And Spinner could have easily said he gave it to Jimmy, but he didn't want Jimmy to get in trouble, so he kept quiet. And Raj goes up, "You're going to take your pills in front of me from here on out." And we don't hear anything about the ADHD or ADD of Spinner yet again. I mean, that's his nickname, but anyway. So season 1 had nothing big. Raj was okay, and he had the look, the Chuck Norris look, and it looked pretty cool. I think girls were swooning over him. If I were a girl, I probably would have. But in season 2, he was fine, and then comes the one thing that everyone hates on him: the whole fight for your right genetically modified foods thing. He watches a presentation made by Emma, Ashley, and other people about GMO foods, and they should be banned from the cafeteria. Raj takes a tomato, eats it like an apple, and then just basically tells Emma and crew, "Thanks for the presentation, but we can't do anything about it because we have budget cuts and we're lucky to have a cafeteria." Now, students don't understand the inner workings of a school and budgeting and all that shit. So, it's understandable, but Emma takes it to the extreme that Raj just doesn't want to open up and listen to them. So she passes the flyers, Raditch takes them away, and Emma's waving the white flag until that cafeteria commercial happens, mocking Emma. And Emma, as in season 2, I think she was the most triggered character, and within that season, season 2, in history. Fight me on it. So the fact of the matter with Raj is that, at the end of the fight for your right thing, who won? Was Raj right? Was Emma right? Both right? None of them right? Unfortunately, they both came out losing. There were no winners in this one. Although you could say that Emma technically won because Raj, as the adult, should have been more caring and more understanding. But unfortunately, Raj wasn't. But the fact of the matter was that Emma was a bit temperamental in the whole situation. Yeah, Raj wanted to get rid of Emma because of Emma starting the food fight inadvertently and wanted Emma to apologize and bow down to him in a sense. But Emma does apologize for the food fight, but refuses to bow down to Raditch, and we don't know if Raditch basically used it as a way to try to control the school, saying that, she just said that on the video system. What am I going to do? Season 3 is when he was a little bit more triggered, and it looked like Raditch was just trigger happy with suspending or putting people in detention. Raj got rid of the facial hair, and, he was clean shaven, and he looked awful. I can't remember if it was K-Feld on the Degrassi Reddit or whoever it was that did that picture of clean-faced Raditch and clean-shaven Raditch and Raditch with the beard, and that Raditch was basically much better. And I forgot to mention that Raditch in season 2 actually had a good human moment when he told Craig, after Craig lost his father in the accident, "Don't come to school, you won't fail, I'll make sure of that. And my office is open." And then once Craig hallucinates and tears down stuff at the luau dance, Raditch tells everyone, let him get it out of his system. That's humanizing him. Though the fact is, season 3, he was trigger happy with detentions. He put Ellie in detention for skipping too many classes. Well, fair enough. He puts Hazel in detention for looking at inappropriate sites on school grounds. That's understandable. He gets Jimmy and Toby detentions because of changing grades on a school computer. That's understandable. And of course, he goes after Sean basically as a way of punishing him for stealing stuff from the school. And even though he has no physical evidence, he knows Sean did it, and Sean brags about it in a sense. So he throws Sean in for 8 weeks for blasting his name. But it was just for stealing the stuff. Now Raj could have easily gotten Jimmy, Toby, and Sean into trouble with the law quite easily because of their troubles. But he didn't. He just didn't. So the simple fact is that Raditch did what he did. Now you may be thinking, oh, he's overstepping his boundaries, and maybe he's doing it to try to get control of the school back from the students. But the students didn't really take advantage of him that much, even though Emma did that thing on the video system. But, they did the Saturday detention episode, Take on Me, and, it was good. And they would try to humanize Raditch. especially with him being at the school working out without his glasses on and with that Swiss ball from Switzerland, in which it was an iconic line. The fact of the matter is, Raditch is only human, and he's doing what he can to make the school together with band-aid solutions and all that. Snake calls him out on it when he comes talking to Raditch during that episode and says they're only kids. And so Raditch basically does let them off Saturday detention. Now, there's nothing wrong with Raditch basically putting them in detention, forcing them in detention. But why Saturday detention and not Monday to Friday detentions and all that? That would have been simple enough. But the fact of the matter is that Raditch, in the end, was made to be human. Heck, even in that episode that paid homage to Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Raditch was seen with a woman. It's like, Raditch wants to be with a woman? Rules? How come he couldn't find a woman and all that? At first, it's like he's married to his job, not to another girl. I wish he was married. But, that's the way it is. So that's all for this part. And now let's talk about season 4 and Raditch's involvement. Now we come to season 4 and Raditch's role in it. The first few episodes really didn't need to worry about Raditch, although in the season 4 premiere he talks to Coach Armstrong in the background about budgeting and how Raditch doesn't have the money for the supplies. He's got enough teachers badgering him and all that. But of course comes Mercy Street, in which we see Rick and his mom around, and Rick is shaking Raditch's hand, and Raditch is kind of smiling, and in fact, pissing up Paige and company, and so they should be mad. But the fact of the matter is that Raditch let Rick back to the school. Everyone was upset by it. Of course, CTV stupidly decided to make Raditch's explanation a deleted scene, which you can only see on the internet or on the DVD release. Marco and Alex, being named school student president and vice president, if you will, in the previous episode, try to talk to Raditch and Raditch says, Terry's at private school, I can't talk about her affairs. When you deconstruct that, it's like, okay, Terry's not a student. You can't really talk about her matters. Fair enough. And then he says that, I appreciate your concerns, but the fact of the matter is that he doesn't have a criminal record and all that. Despite Alex and Marco telling him these things about how he's a danger to women, he says, without a criminal charge, a student can study at my school, like it or not. And then, of course, he dismisses him. Now, of course, when you look at that scene, it's like, is Raditch telling the truth that without a criminal charge, his hands are tied? So he's basically telling them his hands are tied. But the fact of the matter is, Raditch could have easily have gone easy and said, no, I can't let Rick back in my school, no matter what. But the fact of the matter is that, he does that, making Marco and Alex angry, and it seemed that way. And then Raditch interferes when Emma tries to prevent Rick from passing them in the hallway and says, Emma, move. And Emma says, we don't want him at our school. And says, this is not one of your stupid crusades. Stay out of this. This doesn't concern you. Fair enough. But it also shows, if you deconstruct that, as Raditch still having the grudge against Emma from the whole season 2 Fight for Your Right situation. He's upset that Emma's causes are causing trouble, and it's basically inadvertently hurting him. He's just thinking about himself? Maybe, maybe not. Raditch has a point, but the point's not there. So the simple fact is that he's going after Emma for these things. Raditch, of course, has to see the Orange Ribbon campaign and all that. They're not breaking the rules. They're just trying to get rid of Rick without running afoul of Raditch. And, Raditch doesn't really have a role to play until Time Stands Still Part 1. Rick keeps getting bullied. No one's putting their foot off the pedal. And all that. So the simple fact is that when Jimmy's put on the Quiz Bowl team in place of Heather Sinclair with her famous mono, and maybe Craig had mono from Heather, who knows? But the fact of the matter is that Rick's upset. He doesn't want to go talk to Snake because he doesn't want to be a blabbermouth. So he decides to go with Raditch because Raditch kind of did protect him in a sense. However, Raditch blows him off. Rick tries to explain himself, saying that Jimmy is bothering me and doesn't make any qualms about it. And Raditch takes it as face value and basically says, you have to do better making friends, Richard. It takes two to tangle. Like, I get Raditch. He's just, in his mind, Rick is just complaining that Jimmy's not being his friend. And Rick did not say the magic words, he's bullying me and all that. Because Raditch, worst comes to worst in this situation, should have just said, well, if this happens again, tell me right away. Or done something about it from the start. But the simple fact is, he could have just said, next time tell me about it, but I'm not going to believe you this time. I just gave the impression that Raditch did not want to care about Rick. Rick is pleading with him not to allow Jimmy on the Quiz Bowl team. Fair enough, and Jimmy's a tormentor. And people forget Jimmy was a tormentor to Rick. Well, for good intentions, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to talk about that. The fact of the matter is that Raditch, seems happy with himself. And then when the Quiz Bowl team seems to get along with each other and he's watching it on his computer, he's smiling because he knows that he helped Rick out. And Rick is being good. So he's like, whew, problem avoided. Yeah, sure, whatever, Raditch. Simple fact is that, he has nothing to worry about. And then, of course, from his computer, he has to watch the paint and feathers fly on Rick, and he goes ballistic. He goes over the video system saying that I will catch these people, and in 25 years as an educator, I've never been embarrassed in all my life. Fair enough. He says, I will punish people severely, and if you know anything, please tell me. I'll keep everything anonymous. Of course, Toby tells Rick that Raditch is going to fix the problem, but, Rick doesn't believe him. I mean, Rick has a right not to believe him. And then again, CTV does not show a prominent scene and makes it a deleted scene when Spinner clucks at Rick, who still is in his paint and feathers, and it's like, wow, he's so far gone. He wants to wear his paint and feathers outfit there. He could have just easily worn a normal shirt, blended in, and then things would have been a whole lot different. I think we were lucky that Rick decided not to change. Raditch hears this and tells Spinner, meet me at 3:30 for an important talk. And it looks like, Spinner just clowned around too much. He got himself. He's got. Then Raditch goes to Rick and tells him, hey, I'm sorry about all this happening. You're free to leave the rest of the day. And then he lets Rick go to his locker. Snake hears this and tells him what the plan is. And Raditch says he can't do any more harm. If he's not here, then he's not here. Then Snake goes after him, and Raditch says, really, this is not daycare, and making friends is not part of the curriculum. Which basically means that Raditch has blown it. He just doesn't understand it. He still doesn't get it. I mean, I say preschool because preschool is more like daycare. It makes sense. But the fact of the matter is that Raditch has blown it. Snake scoffs at him. The next time we see Raditch is when he's going to talk to Snake about warning signs towards Rick. Snake blows him off saying, where are these warning signs now? Now the hindsight kicks in. Look, I have 700 students. How was I supposed to know one was going to go ballistic over spilled paint? And Snake says, he's talked to you twice and you've ignored him. This would have happened, damn it, if you hadn't. And then Spike breaks it up. Raditch basically realizes going after Snake in front of Emma is not going to help anything, and tells Emma that they want to talk to everyone and I'm sorry. Of course, Spike knows that Raditch did some wrong in it. Snake knows Raditch did some wrong in the situation. So the simple fact is that, Raditch now has to deal with a school of 700 students that now has a shooting involving 2 students. One's dead, one's probably going to be dead. Well, of course, he doesn't know about Jimmy's condition until we learn that Jimmy is just going to be a paraplegic, meaning he's going to be in a wheelchair, but he's got full use of his arms and all that shit. But simple fact is that, Raditch now has to deal with this school thing. And of course, what happens is that he opens the school on the Monday, which normally schools do in times of tragedy, with grief counselors to try to fix the situation. No classes, you gotta go for an hour and talk about things. Raditch made the right noise with that situation. So the fact of the matter is that Raditch just basically has to play damage control. And unfortunately, his role of being damage control is basically canceling Dracula because of its goriness, despite the fact Dracula does not go completely into the source material. So Raditch, in a way, is trying to deflect things and says that we need a musical to make how good Degrassi is. Now, I don't blame Raditch for trying to play damage control. It's just how he plays damage control is beyond belief. The fact with me is that Liberty and JT had the right to take him to task, and we realize how much Raditch's role within the school is. When the drama club refused to sing the song, and Alex says, I'm all about rebellion, but I don't want to be expelled. And then everyone's like, and then it's just basically they don't want to run foul of Raditch because of how Raditch is basically being brooding and all that shit. So Liberty does sing the song to Raditch. Raditch throws him into detention, but they find their love with each other. So Raditch inadvertently got Liberty and JT to keep thinking of their feelings. Of course, the next episode, Bark at the Moon, is when Raditch gets eliminated and tells Marco and Manny that, I know you want to see the principal, but I'm not that principal. Is that a riddle, sir? No, it's more like I've been reassigned. And Raditch doesn't look happy with his things. But the school does give him a proper send-off. And Raditch says all this stuff. So, anyway. Now, before I get to my personal feelings on this whole situation, let's talk about Reddit post. Now, when I did this Reddit post, it was 2 months ago, and this is being taped on September 30th for context. The fact of the matter is that Reddit spam filters have eliminated it. Well, the title was, aside from... Oh, sorry, this isn't mine. This is actually Fragrant Labs ones. I forgot. So, this was a post Fragrant Lab did. Aside from Raditch's handling of Rick, what else did he do wrong as principal? And I put a few words and all that. So anyway, yeah, there was a lot of talk about that. Ice Baby said, I don't like how he handled the clothes situation, but I said, unfortunately, he was the principal in Degrassi. He was not the principal in Degrassi High. He was vice principal. So, yeah. So Raditch made some dumb moves. Middle Appointment said he was all talk and no action. He made an announcement about how he investigated the Wacky Brain incident, yet no one was caught. If Spinner wouldn't have confessed, I doubt anyone would have been punished. If I was him, I would have been my top priority to get down to the bottom of the incident. And I said that, well, trying to get Degrassi back in everyone's good books was his top priority, and he completely missed the chance. So, anyway. There's going to be troublemakers and all that. And I even wrote on this thing, I said, I agree with the protesting situation. Because, they protested things with Emma and said, but in the end, nobody won that. Both sides were annoying AF. The whole Breakfast Club homage episode could have been taking him as punishing students for stupid things. But anyway, yeah, I guess I didn't really get much into details. So here's the story. Here's the 411. Here's how I'm going to end this thing. And I know I've taken up about half an hour of your time, but things are afoot. Stupid hair. The fact of the matter is this. Yes, Raditch did wrong. Yes, Raditch should get some blame. Yes, in my mind, he's the number 4 villain behind Rick, Jay, and Spinner in this whole time stand still situation. I believe it. You believe it. You should. All that. I'm just saying he deserves less blame. I'm not saying he's blameless. No. I'm saying he deserves less blame because the system failed him and the system failed the students. The simple fact is the school board system is the main culprit in most of Raditch's mishandling. Raditch screwed up himself. We all know that. Raditch did wrong. But the school board is to blame almost as much as Raditch. Not saying there should be blame more than Raditch, but the system failed. The fact of the matter, guys, is that the school board had the system that failed, that said that, he didn't have a criminal charge. If there was a criminal charge, Raditch probably would have thought twice and said, no, I can't let him back in my school. Simple. But the fact is that the school board just said, you have to let him back in the school. Raditch could have easily said, hey, you got to go to another school, Rick. That's fine by me. But Rick didn't want to go to another school. He wanted to go to Degrassi and face the light instead. He knew he had to face them somehow and figured that they would forgive and forget. Big mistake, buddy. But yeah, the system failed him. Raditch, it could have been easily put in that deleted scene that he was just trying to duck Alex and Marco. But Raditch had no choice. But Raditch could have easily thought twice about it and just basically told the school board, I can't let him back in my school. I don't care what you do. You're the bad guys. So there. But the fact is, Raditch screwed up in the one big thing possible. Someone wrote this on an unusually Eric video thing on YouTube saying that Raditch could have easily set up the situation if he had announced over the intercom or an assembly or over the video system that Rick was back at Degrassi. There was not much he could do. You know, there were no criminal charges. And that could have easily set things up. But also, it could have easily set up the fact that the students would probably have more of a role to get rid of Rick and to basically go after Raditch. And Raditch probably in his mind figured that I can't say that because they're going to go undermine my authority, which is kind of stupid if you think about it. But, I digress. Raditch did wrong with the whole Rick handling. Yes, but Rick was not straightforward with everything, and Raditch is a concrete thinker. You tell him stuff, he'll take it as face value. That's one of his biggest flaws. Snake even knows that. But the fact of the matter is that the system failed the students. It wasn't the Raditch that failed the students. It was the school board system that failed the students in the long run. Now, the reassignment of Raditch could have easily been a firing or the fact that, you know, they wanted to reassign him because he did so good for the company. And maybe the school board was just trying to deflect blame because they may have thought something was wrong with their system. Just saying. The fact of the matter is this, guys. We as a Degrassi Reddit community and we as Degrassi viewers are looking at this through the lenses of 2023, as I am taping this in 2023. The simple fact is, yeah, Raditch should have been booted and should have been fired and stripped of his teaching position. But what's to say that Raditch didn't take his reassignment well? Maybe Raditch didn't like the reassignment and quit. He just said, fuck you, school board, fuck you. So that's what you think. The simple fact is that we're looking at this through a 2023 lens in which people don't get away with stuff as much as 2004. Now, I know the 50s and 60s were known for you can get away with a whole lot of crap compared to 2004 and compared to 2023. But in 2004, the system was that it was not caring towards the students. Raditch could have easily cared a lot about his students, but the fact of the matter is he was burnt out, as people have said. He just didn't care about the students. He just wanted to play out the string with his administrative duties. Raditch, as an this is my mission statement right here, right now. Raditch let his administrative abilities ruin his reputation. In other words, Raditch in administrative mode failed the students. He failed the students because he just cared more about his administrative role and keeping things in order than helping the students. He was not like that. He wanted Spike to stay at Degrassi Junior High, even though Spike was pregnant. He told Lawrence that, but he said that, you know, the parents have a right to talk about this. Raditch was caring and all that, but by the time Degrassi Next Gen happened, he was jaded and, you know, he wasn't thinking that way. And, you know, did he deserve to get turfed? Yes, he deserved to get turfed for everything. But the problem is with me is, one, he should never let Rick back in the school. That's simple. Number two is he should never have let his administrative duties cloud his judgment and care about the students. What's wrong with doing administrative duties and caring about the students at the same time? And number three is not admitting his guilt in any shape or form. He did it in private, that's fine. But he should have told the teachers, he should have told the students, I'm sorry, I failed you. Simple as that. They don't have to forgive him, but at least Raditch tried to make things right in the world. And people wouldn't believe him. That's on the students, that's on everyone's mind. Raditch failed everybody. Now, if I did this by 2019, I would definitely say Raditch deserves for me to punch him out. And I admit, I have thought about that. But this was 4 years ago. Would I attack Raditch? No. I would attack him in a different way, verbally. And basically, I would do, as I did in my screenplay, I said, you let the students down. You could have stopped the situation. Heck, you could have went to Rick's funeral and tell Rick's parents, I'm sorry, I wish I knew everything. But, Raditch probably never went to Rick's funeral because he didn't want to face the Murrays. He didn't have the answers. And he could have easily said, I'm sorry, I don't have the answers. And maybe Rick's parents wanted Raditch to pay the price for everything, and the school board listened. But after all, Rick's parents would not get anything because their son's a school shooter. But here's where I end this. Raditch was a villain in this whole situation. Yes, he was the biggest adult villain next to probably Rick's mom. But the fact of the matter is that he let his administrative duties cloud his judgment. End of story. I wish Stan Woods had a better standoff. I wish Raditch had a better standoff. Everyone knows that. But that's just how it goes. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.